All steps scientists
Let's go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UnFuckIt discussion. It's the end of fucking June. Don't ask me how. The month is gone. It's over. This weekend, it's like Sunday is July 1st. Don't understand. But I want to get into a subject. Right off the hop, I want to lay this out for you. I'm going to do a little preamble to get into this. So on Saturday this weekend, I got hit with the exhaustion stick. And we've talked about this kind of, we have those where all of a sudden you're just so exhausted. And it lasted basically 3 days. Yesterday was a little better. I got a bit tired, but not too bad. But it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I was so exhausted. By 11 o'clock in the morning, I was tired. I woke up tired. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was ready to go to bed for the night. Like, it's that kind of thing. You can barely function. And I was talking to a friend of mine on Monday. I think it was Monday. And I said, I'm a wrecking ball. Like, I'm trying to do numbers. I'm trying to do work. And as long as I was doing creative work, I was kind of okay. So you do it make sure to do it slowly. So when you're building layers, you're doing them very, very slowly and taking care. But when it came to anything that was like really, really constant, I just couldn't do it. And I said to her, wow. I said, you know what? I said, I haven't felt this terrible since I went to Australia. I said, jet lag just kicked, and I've never had jet lag like that. I said, it kicked my fucking ass. No, and I travel. I travel long distance travel a lot. And over the last 25 years, I've done 12, 13, 15-hour flights every couple of years. I travel a lot. But that one trip, the last trip, and then of course they say when you get older, jet lag gets worse, right? So, okay, I'm older. It really kicked my ass. I didn't think much of it, and I was going to bed that night, and all of a sudden I was like, yeah, jet lag. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it. I was like, wait a second. Jet lag. What are the symptoms of jet lag? Because all of a sudden you start thinking about how I felt like when I had the jet lag. And I can remember trying to have conversations the first 2 days I was in Australia, trying to have conversations and just incapable of concentrating. Incapable, like you're trying so hard to pull your attention onto a subject and your brain is fuzzing out. You're clumsy. You just want to fall asleep at odd times. So you'll be sitting there and all of a sudden you're passing out asleep in your chair. And just general feeling of being unwell. And all the things that we've been talking about. About how we're feeling right now. So I went, I was like, well, okay, shits and giggles, let's jet lag, right? So before we go into this, first of all, how many of you here in the room have done long distance, like you've traveled, you've jumped at least 5 or 6 time zones, where you're doing, and I'm talking when you're doing a minimum 6-hour flight, but going into like the 7, 8, 9-hour flights where you're doing, okay, so Anne, I know you because I know you've flown to Japan quite often and Australia. LA to Ireland, oh, I bet, Megan, that's a good one. Yep, okay, so we've got a few people. So you guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about jet lag, because a lot of people, if you've never been out of the States, doing a jump, say from LA to New York, you might get a little bit of jet lag, but it doesn't kick your ass the way it does once you get past 5, 6 time zones. Okay, so that feeling of jet lag. So I want to describe the feelings that you get with jet lag, especially for those who haven't done that kind of distance traveling. So obviously one of the first and primary one is fatigue. And It's a bizarre fatigue. It's a fatigue where you fall asleep at the wrong time, and when you're supposed to go to sleep, you can't sleep. So you get like this complete, your body clock, you're going to bed, it's nighttime, but you can't sleep at all. You're wide fucking awake. But yet in the middle of the day, you are literally to the point where you can't even physically keep your eyes open anymore. Nausea, upset stomach in as far as indigestion, nausea, but also in the bowels, in the intestinal tract. It can be diarrhea, or it can be being really, really bloated. It can be being really constipated, right? Sore muscles. That's one of the pieces of jet lag that a lot of people don't get, is that feeling that your muscles are weak, as if you've just run a marathon and then you go to walk up the stairs and your muscles literally feel weak, and sore joints. Either being completely without any appetite whatsoever, like you cannot eat. And when you think about eating, you literally, it almost makes you feel sick to even think about eating. The thought of putting food in your stomach. Difficulty concentrating, feeling completely disoriented to the point of being dizzy, lack of overall energy, and a general feeling of being unwell. The other ones are depression, anxiety, radical mood swings, headaches and backaches, ringing in the ears, and lack of appetite. So, you guys seeing where I'm going with this? Exactly, Megan. Okay. Yeah, Ben, I live in jet lag at the moment now, too. But here's the thing of what I've noticed, and I want to put this out there for you guys, because I've noticed that when I have those days of exhaustion, they usually come in a wave, and you usually get, 3 or 4 days of it. Same thing, if I have those days where I can't sleep, where you're up in the middle of the night and you just can't fall asleep, I usually get 3 or 4 days of it. And that is your prime time for jet lag. Is it takes most people 3 to 4 days to get over jet lag, and then it tapers off. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and that's the thing that struck me, Tracy and Ben. Both of them said jokingly, "It sounds like I'm living in jet lag." That's exactly it. So I sat there and I had this epiphany on Tuesday, and I actually called up Ann. I said, "Ann, I got to talk to you. I got to throw something at you. This is wild, fucking way woo-woo out there." We've been talking about time speeding up. We've been talking about that feeling where, like, it's now we only have 18-hour days. Sometimes it only feels like a 15-hour day. We have talked about the feeling of sometimes you feel like you've jumped, like you've lost days in the week, where all of a sudden you're like, it's Wednesday? How the fuck did it get to be Wednesday? Isn't it Monday today? I don't understand. So I went through and I did some research on jet lag, and I came up with a couple of real fucking interesting pieces. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Come on, go back to Zoom. There we go. Okay, I'm going to have to get rid of the chat as it's my way. Okay, jet lag. Yes, I'm using Wikipedia just because it's fucking easier than going through a shitload of other websites, okay? Jet lag is a physiological condition which results from alterations to the body's circadian rhythms caused by rapid long-distance transmeridian east to west travel, i.e. not north to south because you're still in the same time zone, but east to west or west to east. For example, someone flying New York to London, okay? The condition may last several days before the traveler is fully adjusted to the new time zone. A recovery period of 1 day per time zone cross is suggested as a guideline. Now, I want to get in here. Give me a second. Okay, so travel fatigue which is another name about talking about it. And I love this. When they talk about signs and symptoms, one of the main ones beyond the sleeping and exhaustion, cognitive effects, including poor performance on mental tasks and concentration, increased fatigue, headaches, irritability, problems with digestion, reduced interest in or enjoyment of food. Reduce interest in food. We've talked about this a fuck of a lot, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, and it gets into the science of this. The circadian rhythm stuff. Nick and I did a bunch of research on it. We watched a video back in late 2014, early 2015. And it was a guy who was a scientist, and he was talking about circadian rhythms. And he was talking about the role of light and dark, i.e. sunlight and darkness, and how important it is to the brain for triggering all these. And we've talked about it a little while ago when there was that big article that came out with the role between melatonin and vitamin D, and how melatonin is the nighttime dark hormone, vitamin D is the daytime light hormone, and they work together, right? The circadian rhythms, when you go and you start actually researching this, it is a very, very interesting topic. And I'm not going to get into a lot of it right now because there's a huge amount of information, and it gets like way out there. Jet lag is a chronobiological problem similar to issues induced by shift work and the circadian rhythm sleep disorders. Okay, the body clock circadian rhythm will be out of synchronization. Now this is where it's interesting. Hold on, just give me a second. I gotta move this. No, not this. Move that. There we go. Okay, the body clock will be out of synchronization with the destination time, as experiences daylight and darkness are contrary to the rhythms in your body. Now, what's interesting is in a couple of the other studies that I went through is they talked about the human body naturally runs on a 24.2 hour cycle. 24.2 hours, as in they take people and they've done the studies where they take them and they completely isolate them so they have no daytime, nighttime reference, and allow them to start developing their own rhythm of when they wake up, when they go to sleep, when their day kind of starts and begins and ends. And it's 24.2 hours. That is the body's natural cycle. Okay? This is where I got into some really heavy shit. And I mean, I'm going to have to do some more research on this because it goes into a bunch of new stuff. Double desynchronization. There are two separate processes related to biological timing: circadian oscillators and homeostasis. We talk about homeostasis all the fucking time. And I'm not going to get into the heavy scientific stuff. Basically, the circadian system is located in the hypothalamus section of the brain. Other processes, homeostatic sleep propensity, which is a function of the amount of time elapsed since the last adequate sleep episode. So number one there, the last adequate sleep episode. And one of the things that struck me when I read that was the fact of how many of us have said we've woken up and felt even more tired than we went to bed, like as if we haven't slept at all. So keep that in your mind right there. The human body has a master clock and the SCN, and also a peripheral oscillators in tissues. The SCN's role is to send signals to the peripheral oscillators. I'm talking about your eyes, okay? Which synchronize them for physiological function. So basically, the light comes in through your retina and signals all of these things, i.e. light, it's daylight, it signals through your eyes to your retinas, and it begins a process within the brain of operating in daylight time, i.e. things like getting ready to accept vitamin D hormones, etc. Okay? Okay, so it is hypothesized that the peripheral oscillators respond to internal signals such as hormones, food intake, and nervous stimuli. The implication of independent internal clocks may explain some of the symptoms of jet lag. People who travel across several time zones can, within a few days, adapt their sleep-wake cycles with light from the environment in the environment. That does not date the light that's in your house, light from the environment, i.e. the fucking sun. However, their skeletal muscles, liver, lungs, and other organs will adapt at different rates. And I started going down that rabbit hole specifically because the whole thing is psychologically, you will start switching over in 3 to 4 days when you jump to time zones. But other parts of the body take much longer. Some of it is weeks before, like, for example, the skeletal structure muscles start to adapt. Lungs, liver, and it was really interesting that liver was, all the studies mentioned liver. And when Anne and I have talked about homeostasis, and we've talked about a lot of the experiences a lot of people are going through, most of them are in homeopathy are liver related issues that come back to the liver. Okay? This internal biological desynchronization is exacerbated as the body is not in sync with the environment. A double desynchronization, which has implications for health and mood. So, hold on, I'm going to move this down. Is this the one? When we go into the, oh, come on, where's the internal clocks? Sorry, guys, just give me a second. There's a specific piece in here I'm trying to find. Okay. Article, the first human clock genes are found. This article is from 2001. And there's now a shit ton of articles now coming out about it. They've discovered a gene which is responsible. There's 3 genes, actually, that are responsible for the internal clock and how we function. Okay, so I went through a pile of this information. And I sat there and said, okay, let's throw some crazy hypothesis on the table. Time is speeding up. If we are naturally, our bodies, on a 24-hour cycle, and all of a sudden our bodies are being forced to function in a 20-hour cycle, an 18-hour cycle, whatever the actual real cycle is now, because we don't actually know, how are we physically going to react? Over time, you're going to get to a point of exhaustion where your body goes through a point of like, I am not getting adequate sleep cycles. One of the other interesting things is the sun and the important role the sun plays. And I had a deep immersion discussion, I think it was back in early on in the year, maybe February or March, with Emily Moyer. And Emily was talking about the fact of she goes out running and she runs a ridiculous amount of miles a day. And how she can go out one day in perfectly blue skies and not get any sun at all. Like running for 2 hours and not see any sun on her skin whatsoever. And then 2 weeks later, go out, run the exact same and get like sun. Like you can get sun. And I said the same thing. I said we would be out in the garden, sitting out in the garden for 3 hours and like no sun, like as if you've been sitting in the house, no sunlight on your skin at all. And then go out a week later and get a sunburn. And we've talked about the whole thing of the sun is fucked up now. The sun is not real. The sun, we've thrown out the concept of the sun simulator. The concept that the sun is just not what it was. So what if a lot of this stuff that we're experiencing is quite literally fucking jet lag? It's our bodies desperately trying to adjust to a time zone that doesn't exist. Trying to adjust to all this changes, what feels like shifting and changes of time. And if you really, really want to get woo, what if we are literally time jumping? What if we are time jumping? When we feel these loops, when we feel these massive shifts come on, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, where the fuck am I now? And you don't even know what day of the week it is. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, you're hit with the extreme exhaustion again, as if you've got jet lag because your body is not adjusted yet to the new light, the new environment, the new time that you're currently existing in. Time makes no sense. Exactly, Penny. Time makes absolutely no sense. And we've talked about this. It's to the point now, like I said, first of all, I'm not even losing days. I'm losing fucking months. I have no idea where June went. I have no idea where June went. And I remember back in April going, I have no idea where April went. It was May, and I was like, what the fuck? Where did February and March go? We look and we sit there and we go, this week, I literally was like, I realized this morning, it actually was this afternoon, I was like, holy fuck, it's Wednesday. I've got the UnFuckIt discussion tonight. And I've got friends visiting. So I'm like, I know we're going to be going out tonight. We're going to be going out for dinner. I was like, oh shit, what I'm going to have, well, we'll have to just be an hour late. I'll just like make the show an hour later. I'm sleeping right now until 9 o'clock in the morning. I have never in my life slept in until 9 o'clock in the morning for days in a row. Because and everyone in my family is. It's not just me. My boys are sleeping until 9 and 9:30 in the morning. My boys are usually up at 6. Everyone in my house, it's as if time has shifted. So instead of waking up at 7, everyone is on the same shift, and we've gone from waking up at 7, now we're waking up at 9 in a matter of days. And I'm not talking about a slow change. I mean, in a matter of 2 days, it went from everyone waking up at 7 to everyone in the house waking up at 9 o'clock. So if time is as fucked up as we suspect it is, and time actually does play a part in these avatars we're driving around, these bodies that we're wearing. Okay, yeah, look up the word time. Yeah. Okay, if I had a hairband, well, there it is. If time actually plays this part, i.e. that our bodies are programmed for a 24.2 hour cycle, and all of a sudden they're in a place where they're not getting 24.2 hours a night or a day. Over time, over a period of time that the jet lag feeling coming in. You come out the other side of it and you feel great. Last week, I felt great. I wasn't tired. I didn't need a nap in the afternoon. I got up at 7 in the morning. I'm off doing shit. I could get shit done. Hit Saturday. Boom. Complete and utter exhaustion. And it was literally as if I had extreme jet lag. That is the only comparative I have to what I experienced was jet lag. I don't know. So, what do you guys think? And throw this out there to you. And Ann and I had some really interesting conversations. So I don't know if you want to chime in, because there was a couple of things that you said when we were talking yesterday, and I can't remember the specifics of it now. The liver thing was really, really interesting. Because of the fact of that's in all the discussions Ann and I have, like we're looking at symptoms, and a lot of them come back to being what is classified as kind of like classic liver symptoms. And this thing about the sun, crazy crone, exactly. The thing with the sun, we have said it for fucking ever that the sun is not normal. And what if the sun isn't normal? And what if like creating fake sunlight and other sunlight to make it stretch to look like it's a 24-hour day, but in actual fact, we're only getting, if the sun's, this was my crazy hypothesis, and it was a sleep-deprived hypothesis, mind you, so bear this in mind. If our days are literally shrinking, and we can feel time speeding up that way. What if the sun is doing the same thing? And they're using a fake sun at, say, certain times of the day to make it appear to be a 24-hour day, because they've got to keep maintained the fucking illusion of time. But maybe the sun that we have in the sky, like I said, why some days you go out and you get fucking burnt to a crisp, and you go out a week and a half later and it's like, hey, guess what? I've been out here for 4 hours and I don't even have like a strap mark. There's like nothing.
So what if that's kind of what's literally happening? Like, what if this is the for lack of better definition, literally the Earth changes, and you're hitting on a node there, like Cliff was hitting on a node in the aspects of are they trying to get ahead of something that's occurring, and therefore setting up the playbook on having to get the simulation in now because it's going on now. So then, like you say, it's like that's why you get 2 sunsets or 2 sunrises. And that's why
we've got multiple images. We've got so much fucking photo evidence of it. No one can doubt this anymore.
Well, and then you've got the added aspects of being able to, well, you know, people talking about the moon looking different, the moon and the sun up at the same time. You've got, what else is there? All those sorts of things. You've got
2 suns in the sky, literally 2 suns in the sky.
But that's what I'm getting at is like, it's not necessarily literally 2 suns, because you've also got all these what do they call it? The solar lens things going on. Now, they don't necessarily have to have an actual fucking physical lens. As we've seen, there is definitely the possibility of using sound and or energy to form the particulates in the environment into these things to create the refraction needed. So you're very much onto something, I think, there.
And our bodies are programmed. And that was in the studies, because I read about 6 different studies on circadian rhythms. And the word they use, every study, the body is programmed for a 24.2 hour cycle. Programmed. If the body's programmed for a cycle and all your internal systems are working off of what should be a 24-hour cycle, and they suddenly take you out of that 24-hour cycle and put you in I don't know, it doesn't matter. It could be a 30-hour cycle. It could be a 20-hour cycle.
Well, it could still be the 24-hour cycle, but what's happened is your variance of light to darkness have changed. So you've got like 14 hours of darkness happening and only 10 hours of light, as opposed to 12 hours of light and 9 hours of darkness, or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. And we go through that shifts during our yearly cycle, right? Summer, the days get longer, but they do it slowly. So the idea being that your body acclimatizes by those minutes a day. But
when did that's where I was going. Right. I've been watching under Jeff's pushing me in the direction of a dude called Russ Ben. Right, now
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet.
Very, like, fucking really on point. Really on point. And now that I've mentioned his name, the thought has just fleeted from my mind about exactly what he's talking about. Not exactly.
You got jet lag.
Yeah, something like that. Or stoned. See, this is the problem. Does being stoned make jet lag happen, or does it make jet lag worse? I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Or does it make it better?
It has been some time. But CERN. So what he was talking about is these different points, energy, time phases, and he's been talking about prophecy. And we've always said, whose prophecy, right?
Yeah.
But we know when it comes to jurisdiction, in law, and this goes for LORE, is the oldest claim stands.
Yeah.
Right? Now he goes into like the Philadelphia experiment, but not so much the Philadelphia experiment that everyone thinks about with Montauk and the Navy vessel. He goes into a whole lot. He brings Benjamin Franklin into it. He brings Penn? I can't remember the dude. Is it Sean Simon Penn? Way back in the day from America. Anyway, goes into all this historical stuff and the symbology, right? And the big thing for me is symbols and the occult and the inner workings and that sort of stuff has been quite major when we talk about time, the events, who's in control, the they and who they are. And what Ras Ben goes into is the same thing that Freeman and Michael Sarian and Jordan Maxwell and all these people have been talking about is it's not so much the words we should be majorly looking at, it's the symbols. And what happened was they claimed the 9 goddesses from the Greeks, and the Greek goddesses, and I think I put a link in here somewhere, or I did just on the UnFuckers page actually, but the Greek goddesses were in charge of the sciences and arts. So those are the languages in which they speak to us, which is the symbols, the music industry, the media, and this sort of stuff. And this is where the hidden messages for setting up prophecy is. So this is where I'm going. So it's not so much about whose prophecy is right. What's going on is who's fucking putting the prophecy in play. So what I just sort of thought, this is where this whole fucking saga of my story is going, is what if their playbook is Revelations?
Yep.
Right? That's their playbook. And you can, in totality, you could say the King James Bible, right? Yep. So in Genesis, in the beginning, God created light. From light came da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So if we look at these as prophecies, which doesn't mean that they've happened or that someone has seen these things happen, it's just someone wants this shit to happen. What if we're seeing the recreation of the firmaments? What if we are seeing these things? So then you've also got...
you're going to have to define that a little better.
Well, they're putting up a firmament. Or at least one, at least one firmament, because you could sit there and go, well, yes, they're putting up a nano one. They are using water, so they are fucking around with water firmaments, and they're also using energy and magnetism. So there's your ionosphere, your magnetosphere,
yep,
your atmosphere. See, like the firmaments, right?
Yeah.
So So what if they are trying to play this out? Now, they have already created light through CERN.
Crashing particles together?
First there was movement, which they created in the accelerator. Then there was light, which is essentially the collision, but not so much the explosion. It is the birth of something, because you have the two energies in flux coming in, and they don't hit each other, they spin together. And in that spin, that creates... Right?
Uh-huh.
What if they are literally trying to, like what Russ Ben is saying, is like they have been trying to recreate the new Rome, and they are trying to recreate these prophetic things. And it's basically, you have the different cabals, for lack of better things, trying to input their
prophecy.
Yeah.
And this is actually, into it.
Yeah, and this is actually what we're seeing. Now, because our bodies, like what Kara says, and a lot of other people, we are from here. You know, we are, at very minimum, the avatars are from here.
Yep.
Right? Yep. So they are part of the earth. So they are feeling the earth, what the earth is going. They are. Like, you can't, like, do you get what I mean? Like, you can't separate the vessel from the earth. They're one and the same kind of thing. They're just different manifestations of that same energy.
Well, if you take it to the simplest level of saying, if we're talking about the whole construct thing, the whole simulation thing, they're part of the same simulation. They're part of the same construct. Whether we're on it, we're in it, we're under it, it's all the same.
So then what I'm now postulating is everyone's felt this major shift in time start occurring from roughly the oldest prophecy, which is the Mayan. And we got told that was ending. Okay? So then once the oldest prophecy ends, does that not open way for a new prophecy to be instilled?
Oh,
and
I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, and what started up in 2012, D? What did they fire up?
Well, they ended 2012. No, they ended
right?
2012. December 21st, 2012 was the big collision that shut it
right.
fucking down.
On the same day the older claim finished, because no one's put forward an older claim yet, right? They've talked about it, but no one's actually put forward and accepted the older claim. The Mayans did. Theirs was accepted. Someone decoded it, and they were like, "Hey, look, this was their prophecy. Da 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 da. These two things turn." So that finishes. Now, what happens if they try and create another pole through the planet magnetically or electrically and slow its spin down so that it counters either the speeding up because of whatever, or that whole thing of light, dark changing.
Mm-hmm.
And they are literally from CERN to the chemtrails. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows of anyone out there that's done it, that has actually started correlating, let's say from 2012, CERN, geoengineering kind of starting to kick off, and Genesis. Because like if they're, let's just say their energy is triggering Kilauea, they're producing new Earth. You get what I mean? Like,
and well, here's the thing. And the one thing we've talked, because I like what you're saying here. The one thing we're talked about is, especially since 2012, but especially in the last 2 months, there's a narrative war on. Everyone is trying to insert their narrative of what to focus on, and you've got multiple, and it's reached a hysterical level. Hysterical level. Like the desperation is so desperate to insert a narrative that can be accepted by the people.
What if this is literally the game that is playing out? You have the Silk Road being built. What if it was never done? You know, like the thing that's always sort of got me is, see, down here in the southern hemisphere, or at least in New Zealand and Australia, we know, and America too, know like Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, like all that sort of stuff as the Middle East. But in the Middle East doesn't exist. That's a narrative from the West. I think it's Asia, Lower Asia, or Asia Minor.
Yep.
Right?
It's not the Middle East. It's like Brazil nuts are not called Brazil nuts in Brazil.
Yeah, but then you've got all these unions happening, right? And you used to have whatever it was. So it's like you've got all this shit joining in Germany again of all these nations. It's like, have we mapped out the nations of the EU? Was this the Hesse-Hanover fucking empire? Is this what the EU is trying to reform? Do you get what I mean? Is that what Russia, and are they trying to reform the Mongolian, let's say, for lack of better words for that area?
And then, but okay, so we're going to pull it out and we'll look at this and we'll say like the Mandela effect type shit that we've seen, i.e. is radically the changing and shifting of World War II.
Everyone's got to watch that Russ Ben, I have to say, because he goes...
You've got to give me the link. Make sure you send me the link in Facebook so I can put it with this. Pardon me. I get the hiccups now all of a sudden. Give it to me. Send it to me in a Facebook message so that I can put it with this video when we put the video up. I'll put it in the article that goes with this. Go to RTSers to get all the link.
But we have seen them going back and forth, but there's no real winner here. They've been trying to make their changes. They've been trying to do their freaking wars that they want, and they haven't been able to do it. There is
unless, as I've strongly suspected, the whole thing of the war rhetoric, World War III is coming, is nothing but a distraction. Because it's not even in the cards. It's not even in the fucking cards, and they know it's not in the cards, but they know it's the one fear porn thing that you could throw at the world to terrify the world and keep them in a state of continuous fear and anger as well.
Well, and then it also depends on whose prophecy. See, this is the other side.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
It's like there's a whole bunch of prophecies going out all at once. It's like I say, you've got Europe, you've got China, Russia, fucking Iran cutting this deal to build this new Silk Road for Europe. You've got Russia cutting a deal to fucking do a whole new gas pipeline for the whole of Europe that doesn't involve any America whatsoever. You've got America pulling back into itself, trying to recreate jobs, trying to re-zhuzh its industrial revolution, its infrastructure, it's all these things.
Okay, here's the thing. So you keep bringing up prophecy, and I think it's really interesting because prophecy keeps coming forward, and prophecy is something I've watched, especially in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of prophecy get brought up, whether it's old Russian prophecies. And of course, you've got your famous ones. You've got your famous ones that Nostradamus keeps getting brought up, etc. Someone posted in the Unfuckers group on Facebook. I think they did. It may have been sent to me as a private message. Oh, I'm so bad at remembering what's a message and what was actually on the group. A Tibetan prophecy. And I went through it, and I did not read the entire. It was quite long. I didn't read it in depth. I kind of just scanned through it. I've never heard it before. I've never heard the verbiage used before. The descriptive wording of how they were describing like epochs, etc. I've never heard this before. And it was like, okay, wait, like usually you get little bits like Hopi prophecy. We all have at least the basics of the Hopi prophecy because we've read it in memes, we've read it in articles, bits and pieces. You get different, obviously we have biblical prophecy. We've got prophecies that have come out of all these places. But prophecy is a big deal right now. And the prophesying, even you could even go to the point of what is prophecy? And say modern prophecy is when you have the mainstream media saying, oh my God, we're looking at World War III is about to start in North Korea, Iran, Syria, pick one, that's prophesying. And that's planting the program in, or trying to plant the program in. In other words, a battle of whose narrative, prophecy, game book is going to play out. I got the Fribbit weave. So it is very, very interesting. All of this, I mean, we've been discussing these topics for years now. But it seems like every time we, pardon the pun, every time we cycle back into this conversation, another piece comes forward. Another little pieces get pulled in. This thing with the jet lag, I find it really, really interesting because of the information I've read over the years about circadian rhythms and how our brains are programmed to light, environmental light, i.e. sunlight, and how important it is at certain rates. Not just for vitamin D, not just for your melatonin, etc., but how important it is to the brain. And like I said, we keep coming back to this whole thing of like, the sun isn't... You're very cute, sweetie pie. And now she's just completely thrown me off track.
You were talking about light.
Light. And the fact of, like we said, what do we have that we keep talking about? We keep talking about, okay, here's something. Going back to a really old piece that I was calling out back in 2011, of course, is the tilt of the planet. And the Inuit, the Eskimos, have been trying to warn the world since 2009. The sun is no longer in the right place. The stars are not in the right place. The winds aren't blowing in the right direction. We have moved. The planet has shifted on its axis. If then you're going to get different light. You're going
And
to
that
get light
happened.
coming at different times.
That happened before. That was 2010, I think, wasn't it?
2009 is when they went public the first time.
Yeah.
2010 is when they released the video when it first came out.
See that? So they're like, and this is the thing is like, there you have an original nation stating a change, right? Now we're looking at and going, what have they done with CERN? CERN happened after that, but potentially. Right? What we know of. But that's not to say they weren't trying out other hadron colliders.
Oh, we know they were.
But we also know that a lot of those other hadron colliders weren't plugged into the right seams, right?
Okay, so then we bring up the different colliders, because they're not just circular colliders. You have the linear colliders. Yeah. There's the big-ass fucking linear colliders are all over the States. There's the one in Brookhaven, New York. The one in Michigan.
The one we found in Italy. Remember the one we found in Italy that set off those microtremors? Exactly.
You have them all over the world. Now, the big one, and this came up, someone brought it up in a video, is the one in Texas that was supposed to be called the Super Collider. Now, they fucking dug half of the ring. Over half of the ring was dug out. They worked on this for fucking like something ridiculous, like 15 years. They pumped in a ridiculous amount of money. Billions, like $2.5 billion got spent. And in 1993, Bill Clinton turned around and went like, yeah, you know what? It's just not going to work, so we're going to shut it down. And who does that? You spend $2 billion and 10 years building something, get it like most of the way complete, and then you just turn around and say, yeah, no, we're just not going to continue with this. It made no logical sense. And I've spent a shitload of time researching that Super Collider.
It does
because I suspect it's actually operational.
Well, it does. I mean, you got twofold on that, right? Because it makes sense if you look at it commercially. It's like local body councils and stuff like that. They have to fucking guarantee the work to get the pay. So they just fucking have 15 dudes leaning on shovels while there's a guy sitting in a fucking digger digging the hole, because it justifies the expenditure. And there's the other phase as well where money's irrelevant. We know that they just print it and fucking make it. So that side of it is kind of, unless
they did
that money... We'll know that money is attached somehow energetically to the people on the planet,
which it is.
So then like this is. So then there's the exhaustion of funds or resources or energy.
Tracy asked the question: are these collisions enough to bump us off our axis and onto their newly created one? No fucking clue. You will never get a straight answer on this. You will.
I don't believe that they're smart enough to have like this. Is when you start like. I've been watching lots of. I've been watching lots of Kara, and I've been watching lots of Razben, and I've been putting bits and pieces together, and I believe that where we are is absolutely unique, and I believe that what is happening is they have spent millennia mapping out all these different peoples, traditions, or interplay. So like we've spoken before, these people cruised, there was a race or races that cruised around the planet, stopped off at different areas going, this is my fucking jive, baby. And then they went about tapping into it and creating harmonic frequencies, because that's what their culture was about. Kara's started talking about these waterways. I think it was in Europe that they've started noticing that are actually really fucking old, like kind of aqueducts, but dug in. Now, these things are latticed across the North Island of New Zealand. And I've always thought that these were fucking old. I was like, who the fuck says that these farmers are the ones that dug them, like the colonizers, and weren't the ones that maintained them? Now, from what my studies with certain people in my life have shown, is that potentially or essentially water on this planet is the most magnetic thing there is. And you can charge it by speeding it up, by putting current into it, by applying magnetism, and you can create electricity from the flow of water. You can create magnetism from the flow of water. And there's another thing called sonar luminescence, which means you can charge water, and essentially the hydrogen in the water will reach its highest potential frequency and give off light.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm starting to see if these people, the Fae or the Origines here, interplayed with their natural environment to harmonize with it, that their biggest interplay would be with water. And the utilization and I don't want to say manipulation because it's totally the wrong word, but the working with water to create abundance, energetically, all that. So I'm starting to think that literally what they're doing is they're going around. They built stuff on our mounds for these reasons. They took over our fucking sacred sites and built churches and banks and shit like that on our mounds and our sacred places for specific reasons. They're now like, digging into the earth and putting these objects into charge. I don't believe that they're sucking energy out so much as what they're actually putting back in.
There was a really good video posted in the UnFuckers group, and it is a takeoff. The gentleman who's doing the narration of the video is basically working off the work of, help me guys, is it Irene from New Earth? The Bulgarian lady who does all the history stuff. Is it Irene? No. It starts with an I. She's from her YouTube channel is New Earth, and we've talked. She's got the real Irina. That's it. Thank you, Allison. And it's on Disclosed TV. And someone remind me. I'll try and remember to put this video in. Is it Sylvia? Am I thinking Sylvia Ivanova? She's got the really soft voice. It's very difficult to hear her voice. Maybe I think it must be Sylvia. So they've put together a video, and it's about a 1 hour video, about 55 minutes, where someone is narrating all of her stuff and basically taking a whole pile of her information and put it into one video. And there's one of the pieces that was really interesting to me was talking about when they go into these places, and of course it was talking about excavating ancient sites, etc., and how they find, a site has been built on a site has been built on a site, and you've got here's some Roman ruins here, but then there's some other ruins here, and then there's other ruins here. And one of the sites they talked about is so ancient that they don't even know, or they will not talk about what it was. But the whole city was perfectly laid out with waterways, sewage ways, wells put in, and that basically the next civilization that came in didn't know how to maintain these waterways. And over the course, then the next civilization came in and basically...
Or some filled them in. In Rome, they knocked every fucking mound down bar 7, filled all the waterways in. They did it in Philadelphia, except 7 mounds. They knocked everything down, filled all the waterways in. It changes the magnetics. I just want to say one thing quite quickly on what you're talking about. Someone's just posted a link to there being a synchrotron or Large Hadron Collider in Australia. And I want to read the first couple of paragraphs because this is hilarious. Here's a good question for your next trivia night. What's the difference between the Australian synchrotron in Melbourne and the Large Hadron Collider near Geneva? Stumped? Here's the answer from Australian synchrotron accelerator physicist Ronan Dowd. Well, both are synchrotrons, but built for very different purposes. Strictly speaking, a synchrotron is a circular particle accelerator that uses synchronously ramped magnetic and electric fields to accelerate charged particles. Both the Australian synchrotron and the LHC use synchrotrons to accelerate charged particles. It's what happens next that makes the big difference. At the Australian synchrotron facility, we're interested in using the synchrotron as a light source. We accelerate a single beam to electron of 3 GeV energy and then place them in a storage ring. The storage ring is designed to keep the electrons tightly focused and circulating at a constant energy. As the electrons circulate, they give off synchrotron radiation, which is harnessed for beamline experiments in biological, chemical, and materials science.
What?
Light.
They're harvesting,
now,
creating and harvesting light.
Yeah. Now put that into law, L-O-R-E.
Yeah.
First light, first law. Now we talk about prophecies. If one of the ancient civilizations started in Northern Europe and they were playing with electrical and magnetic fields, and then in the Southern Hemisphere, you have a culture claiming to be from the light, from the stars. This is where these people came from. And then the collider here is fucking with light. This starts to get really interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
see, this is, and
they're
then
putting it out, right?
looking,
they're putting the information out. There you go. The information is
exactly.
out. They're open
in the 9 arts and sciences. That is their language. Well, they are now fucking with magnetics and electrics. They're now fucking with light, which they've been doing for ages. It's more so the potential of what they've found out from that fucking.
Okay.
And, well, just quickly, because Russ Ben, he goes into what happens in Philadelphia, and they were fucking with Tesla Tech before Tesla was there, right? And here, like, when you watch that doco, it's his presentation, it's really, 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 really interesting, because when Franklin did the electricity, it wasn't with a fucking kite and a key.
No,
that's symbology.
Exactly.
Well, what was it with? Antennas on the top of buildings, grounding electrical energy from the clouds, proving that that energy was the same as electricity, like static.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Right? So they built all these spires and grounded that energy through X amount of steeples into...
And what do you find on the top of every church? What do you find on the top of every government building?
Right.
What do you find on the top of all these things?
So what Russ Ben said is this specific area where they built this in Philadelphia, the natives there, or the autochthonous peoples to the area there, state that when you do ceremony in this specific area on the specific mound, it is done with full participation of the earth. Yeah, look at your faces. Full participation of the earth.
Well, and then we've got to look at. So, but then we got to look at things like, for example, like we always go back to that. CERN is using magnetic fields that are like 100,000 times stronger than the Earth's own magnetic field.
But then you've got to look at what magnetic field. See, because they're measuring it. This is the whole thing, right? We know that, like, CERN, if it's based on Newtonian science, that model.
We don't know that it is, though.
Yeah, no. But regardless of the fact, if it is based, this is all I'm getting at, is if it is based on that, they're getting it wrong and they're fucking with shit they don't know. Otherwise, they are doing it by some other means. And like Kara has stated, it's like, why is Shiva outside of that building?
Mm-hmm.
Why are these, and it's symbols, right? So don't look at it as like, why is that God there? What was Shiva the
destroyer
symbol for?
I was going to say real quick, it's like you mentioned that, like doing it with what you just mentioned, Ben. It's like all this other shit they're doing without our consent. It's like it's all that fucked up psychology. I heard this one person talk about. It's like it's their twisted thinking of like, well, if we don't take the responsibility of looking at what they're doing, then we've consented to the shit they're doing.
And that's how they do
100%.
Tacit
100%. Which is why, see, this is the fucked up thing, Star, is that is where the energy comes from. Because they have to do it in full transparency. And they do it via the 9 goddesses or the 9.
And putting out statements like they do about, on your Australian synchrotron site, and they actually, here you go, transparency. Here it is.
It's the whole thing. It's like the Nike symbol. It's like the Apple symbol. It's like that. It's all these different things. It's like, why does the apple have a bite out of it? Think about the symbology of that. Where is that fucking piece of apple? Who put that? Was that Steve Jobs? Is that a symbol for something more? Biting of the forbidden fruit.
The forbidden fruit. I mean, because the apple is quintessentially, that is what it always held up to be. The forbidden fruit. Garden of Eden, all of that.
It's not about countering anything. It's kind of funny. It's like Russ Ben, I guess, puts it the best way, and he goes, "Well, whose prophecy do you want?" And his prophecy, he goes, "The oldest claim that I go from is Enoch, the Book of Enoch, because what it states is Enoch is the first prophet, so it has the oldest claim. And when you go into the book, what he was trying to do was create peace and harmony."
Okay, well then that's kind of interesting. That is interesting itself, because the Book of Enoch delves into a lot of shit that is coming up right now. Really bad. Talks the giants.
Whose prophecy do you want?
Nephilim. The breeding of the Nephilim, the fallen angels. Again, don't hold religious significance to angels. Let's say beings that came down, breeding with the daughters of men and creating super races, i.e. genetic experimentation and cross-species genetics. We talked about that after the Stargate movie. This theme has been coming up a shit ton, and the bit with the giants in the last 2 years. The whole thing about giants is massively huge, blowing up all over the world, because they're finding the skeletons all over the world. They're finding the lore all over the world. And that's all of Enoch.
Exactly. And one of the funniest or trippiest things for me right now is the fact that the Fae and the New Zealand stuff and these waterway grids and shit is all starting to correlate. And not just in storyline,
no,
or in mythology, but the science behind it is starting to come out. But you were speaking earlier of like, we sit there and we talk about who holds the older claim. Now, one of the guys that we work with and are in touch with, he's this guy, and he'll tell you that the Hopi Indian prophecy is directly correlated to the South American. So they have actually, this is what I mean, they have actually been tracing the storylines. So they have been following these oral traditions back to where they come from. Go.
Okay.
Okay, D, okay.
Before you explode. Before she explodes. The oldest storyline. Okay, what is the one thing they keep doing continuously over and over and over again? Hiding our history. Hiding what's under these fucking ruins, hiding where the ruins come from. Because if they unearth an older storyline, then it takes precedence. Of course they have.
And they are going back, and they are going back through and trying to charge the older claims with their new one. Light in Australia. Magnetics in the north. The Fae.
Listen, Penny,
and what the Fae were here to do.
Penny was just saying they're building on top of them.
They were here to do.
They have here in Malta, I cannot tell you how many times we get announcements, they've just uncovered another section of catacombs. They've just uncovered what they think is another temple. Do you know what they fucking do? They go, look, it's another underground temple. Let's just fill it in and put some houses on top of it.
Yeah, well, and
all
so,
the fucking time.
and
All the fucking time.
Full Moon Fred has gone and said, why do we need / want prophecy? It's not about us needing or wanting it. It's the fact that it exists, and someone is using code to play it out. That's it. That is it.
That's all it is. Don't think of the word prophecy as a religious.
Well, not even religious. As something that someone has gone, oh, I've seen this. It's like I can sit there and go, I can tell you what I've seen, what I've been shown. But see, that's for me, and that's where my journey's taking me. That's the whole thing. So I can only act in my stead to get there.
They're trying to just in place their narrative. In my opinion, when we talk about prophecy, it comes down to, don't look at it as a religious thing. Don't look at it as even a savior thing. Look at it as they're trying to create their storyline in their video game. We want to go back to this storyline, version 2.509, and that's the storyline they want. Prophecy equals, exactly, Stephanie. Prophecy equals narrative. That's it. Prophecy has no fucking more meaning as far as I'm concerned.
Prophecy
is
like an equation, right? Waiting for an answer.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
When the trees all die and the water is poisoned and the animals are all dead, there shall rise a tribe. They shall be known as the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah.
Was that seen, or when shit started hitting the fan, someone went, fuck, this is what we need? And when everything's fucking dead, those motherfuckers better rise, because then they're fucked. Hopefully, someone will
kind of like saying,
get off before everything's dead. But hey, we've been here before, and our peoples have been through these peoples before, and these situations before, and this is how we dealt with it.
Yeah.
So, it's all about the equations. You see, it was one of the New Zealand archaeologists. I think you'd classify him as a geological archaeologist, because what he does is he looks for land masses and stuff like that, and then looks how they may have been altered and things like that, and takes measurements. So he's claiming, he's postulating, I should say, that there was a race of peoples that existed on this planet, and that they hid their code in measurements.
Yes, okay, you and I were talking about this the other day.
Okay. Now, what he's stating is these measurements were so precise, they were worked out to different things, but there was something, and don't quote me on this, but it was something like 18.3 or 18.7 lunar years, and this is how their agronomic cycles were worked out, and they worked out that they were if they were off a day, or even let's just say an inch, that had the potential of killing whole tribes. That's how important this code was. Now, hang on just 1 second. So in the statements and workings that this guy's found, is that it was stated somewhere, and we're gonna look into this guy and try and fucking get him an interview. But essentially, what he's saying is there is a pristine code, and if that pristine code is in order, you have a harmonic environment for peaceful and harmonious existence. If you do not get that code correct, your society will fall to the pits of hell, even to the point of cannibalism.
Okay, so there is a pristine code in effect, i.e. a program. It's a code. And you look at it from what we were just saying, the human body, going back to the whole jet lag thing, the 24.2 hour cycle, that is the pristine code. That is what our bodies are programmed for. And if they alter that measurement, i.e. the measurement of time, etc., however you want to look at it, they changed that to try and change, again, the outcome.
Just the time thing alone, just that 24-hour time thing alone. No, I have to say no, because in summer, my sun comes up. My sun comes up at I totally get it, and I'm not
that's what I'm saying. Right? Take it with a grain of salt. This is science.
And my mind's eye, it's like in fucking summer, my sun comes up about 5:30, and it goes down at like 8:30. How much work I get done then compared to what I get done at the moment, which is like the sun comes up 6:37 if it's not raining, and is where I live is going down behind the hills at 3.
Yep.
So the temperature changes, all that kind of stuff. And you have a hibernation time, which is for 3 months of a year, you have low light.
Right. But they do this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally. Which is a natural
your spring and autumn equinox.
Or homeostasis.
Right? It should be a homeostasis, which is the word they use when they're talking about circadian.
But does your fucking 8-hour 9 to 5 da change? I think that was wrong anyway, wasn't it? That's 9-hour 9 to 5, 8 to 5. Fuck, I can't do maths right now. But that doesn't change. Neither do all your tasks that are incorporated in your real existence, not the thing that you're trying to sustain it. So what you've actually got is you've got less light, which is less energy, but you've got double the workload.
Exactly. But this is the thing. If you take double the workload and the less light, sooner or later there's a drag on the system. Yeah. It's kind of like
exactly.
And I mean, they go back to the whole thing of talking about all the things of daylight. When they talk about the jet lag, they talk about daylight savings time, and the fact that studies have proven that just 1 hour difference causes
what does it do?
Mass suicides, dementia.
But you were talking about science. Don't worry about that shit. Scientifically, it increases heart deaths by 21% or 22%.
Exactly. A measurable 1 hour.
Same amount drop in those when the hour is added back on.
Yes.
So and that actually has like that technically has nothing to do with you losing anything, right?
But it has to do with the shift, a radical shift.
And when and how? Yep. Because it's not the same everywhere that does it. You see what I mean? So then you've got like click, 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 click. So then the difference between me here in Australia and my parents in New Zealand goes from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And then between you and me, I think, what are the variances? 3 to 6 or something?
Something ludicrous.
3 to 5. So you have these things that are all, what we would call it, almost digital, right? Or are they analog? But then have you got an analog and a digital that is transpiring in those facets as well?
And that's just it. You go back to the whole thing, because we keep talking about the fact of the digital analog almost at war, right? Creating this war between the digital and the analog. And if you call the analog the natural sun, just for shits and giggles, follow me on this, and we talk the digital time scale, right? And it doesn't meet up. So it's like I said, we're now seeing the sun rising in fucking Moscow at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. Never happened. Right? Like, what the hell?
And because you said it and I didn't, then you have carbon goo versus silica goo.
Yeah, don't. I'm too tired to
like I say, you've got your analog and your digital.
Yeah, dude.
So yes, they are tapping into ley lines. Yes, they are charging it. And they're not just charging it with our energy. They're charging it with environmental, natural electromagnetics, right? We know that. They're building machines to do the same thing. We also know that those machines are needing to be built into specific mineral or crystal bases.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We hypothesize.
I mean, you will have to go into it, but my understanding is, or my comprehension is that the Hadron Collider is built into quartz.
I know.
Like it is built into quartz. So then you've got that. So this is where, like, the postulation or the theory of how the planet is created, and I don't mean did beings created, was it a fucking, I mean how it's created, because it is ongoing. It hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it's created and now it's this, and it's just been this, but it's being created.
Yeah.
So its creation is being fucked with or integrated with in a known fashion that has and creates outcome or manifestation, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, dudes, oh, dudes, oh, dudes.
Well, I'll add in something really interesting.
Throw it in there, Dawn.
So we just got back from Sedona.
Yeah.
And I went out on a UFO viewing trip this time. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Well, you know, Maurice is a pretty kind of a skeptical when it comes. Not that he doesn't know they're there. He doesn't think he'll see it. So
yeah.
Anyway, I did that, and we had these badass Zoom. They were 3rd generation infrared or whatever, and then we had you know, those LED beam lights. You know,
yeah.
These ones were 100 miles. You know, they go far. I'm not shitting you guys. We're out there 2 hours. We must have seen 25 of them. And, you know, there's a difference between, you know, the planes going over their altitude versus military's a little higher. These are way the fuck up there. So let me take it a step further. So, you know, one of us will see it, and then we're hitting it with the beam, and then everybody else can see where the beam's going, right? Because we're way the fuck up on a mountaintop. And you can see the opening in the Milky Way. Like, you can see the rift. And there, I'm not shitting you guys. They're flying in and out of that rift. It's like a super fucking highway. And so these things are coming along, and we go, bat, bat, bat. It's like a 3, like, bat, 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 really quick with the light. And then you let it go, and you don't do it for like 10 seconds. Well, then they'll go bat, bat, bat. And then you'll go bat, bat, bat. And then it'll go, and it'll just fucking blow up, dude. And they go, whoa. And they come back, and Maurice is just going, oh my God, you know. And I mean, y'all, it was like a super highway they're just coming and going out that hole, and we saw at least 3 sets where they're flying in tandem with each other. So I'm thinking, now, you know very well, the only ones that would respond to us like that would be SSP. Because you know damn well the aliens don't give a fuck. Okay? They don't care. So it's got to be our people up there doing it. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. I could be wrong.
You know what? Dawn, I have no opinion on this, because I gave up years ago trying to factor in all of the different things. Because I went really deep into all that shit back in 2011, 2012. We were watching the skies every night and all of it.
You would have shit your britches.
You get to the point where you're just like, okay, I don't know what to believe anymore, so I'm just going to take the whole thing, put it in a package like this.
You sound like Maurice.
And just put it over here, because I have no answers. And here you go. Are you ready? I have a new sign. So, you know, I've got my unfuckwithable sign. I have a new sign, and it's perfect for this conversation. The one I just dropped on the floor.
Uh-oh.
Here's my new sign.
Out of answers. That's a good one.
Out of answers.
Put that back up, please. Thank you. Out of, I like that. Thank you.
Out of answers.
But y'all, I'm serious. If you just see what we saw.
You get to a point where you go like, I have no answers.
I mean, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Fathom all the information that we get back and forth. It's like, so I just have to go and put it to the side.
Okay, well, like Jeff Gates says,
I know it's there. I'm just going to put it over here, though, for right now, because I just can't fucking deal with it.
okay, well, like Jeff Gates has been saying this whole time, he goes, that's us, SSP, SSP. Now, I didn't know what to think, but then after I seen that, because not every ship responds. But the ones that do, they're all over it. They're having fun.
Dawn, I agree with you on that. I've thought about that too. Like, it's like there's just a lot of dark entities that are around, and I think a lot of it, are you said, for lack of a better way to put it, non-alien, non-ET, or actually maybe dark ETs, or you know what I mean. It's not this great alien shit or anything like that.
There's just a whole program going on up there, y'all. I mean, it's just constant. I mean, it's like I looked at Maurice. I go, now you really understand that there's a whole nother world up there. And he's like, oh my freaking God. I mean, he's an old man, and the look on his face was just like, I was thinking, really? You're that moved by this? And he's like, yeah, Dawn, I listen to you and everyone else, and I've never seen anything. And now I've seen all this tonight.
It changes things.
Yeah.
I've seen some wild fucking shit in the sky. Trust me, I have seen ships in the sky. And we've had experiences that are like, we're in Morocco. Some of the shit that we saw, Christmas 2014. Hold on, I gotta mute.
I know, it's me.
Is it you now?
Yeah. Damn it.
Okay, there we go. So we were a whole gang of us, we're all together having Christmas Eve dinner at our house. So we're overlooking the water. We're on the beach, so you've got no lights. You don't have city lights. We used to go and spend a huge amount of time just sitting there and looking out at the sky. And we watched. And we had a friend of ours who was really, really into it. And he was like, we're going to see some ships tonight. I know we're going to see them, and they're going to show themselves to us. And I shit you not, 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes later, we're sitting there. And one comes across the sky and literally stops directly in front of us, does a little like pauses again, blinks a few times, and then just goes, whoosh, and it was fucking gone. And we sat there, was like, you can't, like, it's not an airplane, certainly not a fucking helicopter, it's certainly not some satellite up in the sky. Like, and the fact that he actually said it was like, we're going to see something. I know we're going to see something tonight because it's it was a really, really clear night. He's like, this is the perfect night. We're going to see something. We're all here together, and every single one of us saw it. Every single one of us in the house saw it.
Those goggles that we used are like $3,500 to $4,000 a piece.
Wow.
They're not cheap.
Yeah, they're a little too rich for my blood. I ain't going to have
one. I know.
My girlfriend here, who's in the midst of building her house, she's been joked. She's a photographer, right? So she's got a really good camera, really good lenses. That's her passion, is doing that. She's been joking that what she wants to do is her new house that she's building is off to the side of the island. It's on the edge of the village. So you've got a really great unobstructed view, that she wants to get a camera that she can mount on the roof of her house that just is pointed at the sky, and then have it do some kind of a feed into the house. So it shows it, then projects it onto the ceiling. So she says, I want to be able to lay in my bed and figure out a way. She says, I got to be a way I can do it, even with an iPhone. You be able to like put the iPhone up there, somehow it's connected to the camera, that it hits like your iPad down below and projects on the ceiling. So she says, I want to just be able to lie in bed and look up and see the night sky, and just to be able to watch what's going on as I'm going to sleep. Like, watch what is actually happening out there. Well, Penny, if it sounds like a great idea, but she still haven't figured out how to do it. I'm sure we could figure out how to do it when we get to the point about her house is actually finished. But
that's started to say real quick too, everybody. It's like, since I don't go out a lot, I admit it. And it's like kind of just quote dead around here anyway. This, most of the people, but off and on, I get to connect with some people. But it's like, it's hard to tell how much you miss, like if when you're not out, or if you're not really paying attention. Hard to tell how much we miss when we're not. When we're not. Basically, you can't see through a roof. Obviously,
yep.
your roof. So it's
Well,
like,
and I said that for us when we first were here and we're on the building on the other side of the bay last year. We had an amazing, because we were up at the top of the hill and we were on the 3rd floor, which is the 4th floor for North America. We had this unobstructed view off the front balcony and the back balcony of like massive unobstructed view. You could see the sea, you could see out in the fields across the island, and we would see all kinds of crazy shit. Now we're in the house now. The problem is where our house is, we're down lower. We have a hill directly behind. So if you look out our back, all you see is the hill. And we've got like, bamboo roofing across the terrace. So if you kind of go out and look up, you can kind of look up. I can go on my roof, but I don't go on my roof very often. Like, I mean, occasionally we will if we know there's something about, like when the personage shower was going to happen, we all went up to the roof to go take a look. But yeah, you don't look up. You don't look up unless you have that place that's in up where you can really see.
Well, that's the other thing too, is even the difference between where I live and Nimbin. The sky in Nimbin's awesome regardless, but that little bit of light pollution, it's amazing how much more that cuts out. It's very interesting.
It's interesting. Out Dwera here, where the Azure window used to be, has always been considered that. There's a very tiny fishing village around the inland sea, but it is a not permanent village. It is literally the fishermen. There's a few people who sleep in their garages, but they're not supposed to. It should be where the fishermen come in and go out with their boats, and that's it. All the restaurants have to be closed at a certain time, and the restaurants are cafe type places. They're not big restaurants. And there's a company here who's been trying to set up a massive restaurant out on the cliff edge that would have all this lighting. And the big fight is the last completely dark side of the island. And it's where all the astronomers go. It's where all the sky watchers go. Because when you go out to that pinnacle of rock, there is no village lights. There's no restaurant lights. There is no light except whatever is coming in from the sky. And they tried again to pass it, and everyone jumped on it and was like, fuck no, this is our last final dark corner of the island. No, you're not putting, the last thing we need is another goddamn fucking disco ball light stringing freaking restaurant. We got 50,000 other ones of those. We don't need another one on this fucking chunk of rock. Anyways, guys, I'm going to have to cut it short here. I am like really, really fucking tired, and I got to go out first thing tomorrow morning really, really early. So we're going to turn off the live stream, and then I'm going to have my quintessential one last smoke. And then I'm going to head out and go to bed. I'm going to go to bed because I'm tired.
Pleasant dreams.
Yeah. So we will be back. We still have not decided on the movie. Oh, wait, has anyone seen what is the movie poll at? I haven't even looked. Isn't that terrible? I've been so busy. Hold on. Oh my God, Ben, stop sending me messages. If I say poll in the search, I should be able to pull up. I have messages coming in everywhere. June 20th, June 18th, June 4th. Okay, really? The poll I just put up is not even fucking up here when I type in poll. Really? For fuck's sakes. Movie. Okay. June 25th. Okay, so here is the so far. Oh, well, in the lead is The Matrix. Has got 19 votes, and Dark Crystal has 17 votes. So we'll put it out here to all of you guys. Seeing as Dark Crystal came in second place last week as well, I think that we should watch the Dark Crystal on Sunday. What do you guys agree? Because it's in second place this week. It was in second place last week. I personally haven't seen it in fucking 30 years. So do I get a vote in here, everyone? Everyone? And I've never seen it. Okay.
Be good,
You know what?
good preparation for the next Netflix fucking Jim Henson.
And
part
they're
two.
gonna there you go. Part 2 is coming out on Netflix. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna call it then. I'm gonna say Sunday's movie is going to be The Dark Crystal.
Did you say part 2?
They're making a part 2, or is it a prequel or a?
I don't know, but it's still a
They're
part 2.
actually making a part 2, a second
The Dark Crystal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Finally.
Puppets. Yep.
With the Jim Henson Foundation and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why it's like that's weird because I mean when you said it hit my head because I'm like that spontaneously hit me. It's like finally like I'd been thinking about it at all because I had just watched it recently and I'm like wow there's some stuff awesome in that movie that little thing
and that's it and that's why I want to see it again because a bunch of Dawn and Maury went and they went and saw it in the theater. What was it, Dawn? Like what, 6 months ago or something? 5 months ago?
Yeah.
And they said, oh, fucking, there's pieces in this movie that need to be seen again. So.
Yeah. And there's
It's
elements, one that's sort of a back the side of it, like without giving it away. Let's just say it has to do with the essence, or not giving it away. That's why that's all I said. I'm not gonna.
It has to do with the great splitting and the coming back into one.
Well, that too. All this stuff is exactly, Dawn. That's what was going on in my head. I mean, that last part I mentioned. It's like there's some. Yeah, it's like I'm glad Roger Silver and some others suggested watching because I was like, wow. After I thought about it more after it was over, it's like it sunk in more after the hours went. I'm like, there's some really revealing things in that. There's some revealing.
Yeah.
You were asking why a part 2? The name of it is called The Age of Resistance.
Oh. Oh, that's interesting too. It goes along with the conversation Nick and I've been having ongoing all this week about the Age of Resistance. Quite literally. Oh, that's
what and McKenna called it the Archaic Revolution.
Okay, well, guys, so Sunday night's movie at 10 p.m. Central European time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Sydney, will be The Dark Crystal. So there you go, JC. You've got a mission to go find a good copy of The Dark Crystal. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it since I was like, I don't know, 20? Like, it's been at least 30 years since I've seen that movie, so.
It would have to be because it came out from what I looked up was 82, and I thought it had been roughly that. Yeah, and I
was in grade 9 when that came out. Grade 9, and I went and watched it with a bunch of friends from school. We skipped school one day, and we went to the movies.
What a good choice! What a very good choice. Yeah.
Notice a bunch of those like essence-based alternative reality sort of things came out in the 80s and that cusp between the 70s and the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting. You mentioned that between the late 70s and that just triggered. I don't know why Close Encounters of the Third Kind popped in my head.
I said it myself this week. Close Encounters, major fucking movie in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was the first one of those. Maybe that's a movie we should put on our list.
It's not a bad idea because the whole freaking movie is really worth watching on occasion, if anything. I mean, you know, I'm just like, what was it? There's little things, and even Close Encounters, like their excuse, like he's like, remember they're in the band, all those people in that, and he's like, wait, hold it. It's like he's smelling the air. Dreyfuss' character was like smelling the air. It's like there's nothing wrong with the air. And then they figured out, of course, about the plant. They just wanted an excuse to get rid of the population so they could have their meeting with those beings. And yeah.
I don't know. Every time I make a ginormous pot of mashed potatoes, it brings back Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Images. Okay, guys, so that's it for tonight. We'll be back Sunday night. We're going to watch The Dark Crystal. I will get graphics pulled together and all that good stuff. And
Anyone want to hang out, by the way?
if you guys want to hang out after, I'm going to have my last smoke once we turn off the live stream anyways, and then I can throw it over to whoever wants to take on host. Well,
Ben, Ben, can you hang out for a while?
I'd love to, but I've
He's
got a
off
meeting with a lawyer in an hour and a half. No, don't look like that there. It's good.
Oh, okay. Good meetings we like. It's when you know you do understand with your history. You make me nervous when you say I'm meeting with a lawyer.
Yeah, no, we're officially starting the registration of the natural design research.
Yeah. You told me. Okay, well that's it, darlings. I will see you all Sunday night. Bye, everyone.
I guess I'll hang out myself.
One small step